Okay, so today we're going to begin our look at the Projects module. And the first place we're going to start is on our Projects Details tab. How we would get to this tab initially, if we had started on our Project List screen, as you will normally do, you can either do a find in your action menu to locate the project you're looking for, or just go directly to the list if you have that available to you. And you can find the project you want and just simply click on it and it will open. And in this case, we're going to look at our Reardon Aspen residence, and we're going to look at our Details tab. So the Details tab gives you certain basic information about the project. The project number, the project name, both of which were set at the time the project was actually created, the type of project it is, and this actually populates from a predefined list in Preferences, which is configurable, which I will show you in just a moment. A configurable field, and this field is completely configurable, including this little label on the left-hand side. So this is just a custom field you can use for anything you want. And then we have the project status. This is actually a hard-coded list that cannot be changed. And then we have the type of project that it is, whether it's billable, a request for proposal, or an internal overhead type project. We also have the project address, and this will be used on certain reports, and we can automatically just copy in the billing address from the billing client if we wish to do that. We also have this section of key people, so we can see who our billing client is. And in fact, we have a convenient link that if we want to actually see this person's contact record, we can in fact click on that. And it takes us directly to the project's contact record. And if we had copied our project's client's billing address, we would have seen that this information was pulled in, and we know that because this address tab is the one marked billing. So we'll go back to our project. We can also change the billing client if for some reason we need to do so. And we can see who originated the project. Who was the person that actually was logged in and created this project when it was initially created. And of course, that can be changed if you need to. The principal architect on the project. And it should be noted that this list, you might assume, would be a list of just simply all the employees in the system, but it actually isn't. So this list of principals does pull from Preferences, and it pulls from a very specific set of preferences. So if we look at our users' details, we see a list of all the users we have configured in the system. And you'll notice that for each one, there is a principal checkbox right up here at the top in the contact details. This is how you indicate to the system that this person is one of our principals. And in fact, only those principals will be shown on this dropdown. And then who is the project leader? And this will in fact show all of your employees. And then below that, we have two areas of importance. We have our project team and our phases and code setup. So our project team, this is a list of all the employees not in the system, but all the employees that are actually basically a member of this project. Only the people on this list will actually be allowed to enter time or expenses against this project. So you have a means of controlling who can do what. You have several options on this list. Obviously, the person's name, their role, which can default from a setup in Preferences, and this role will also automatically apply to any time or expense entries that this person creates on this project. So the time entry itself will have a role of principal in this case. And then that can later be used as a search criteria for reports if we need to do that. The bill rate, which also defaults from a setup in preferences, which we'll show you in a moment. And this automatically will also flow into any new time entries on this project by this person. And then whether or not this person has approval authority. ArchiOffice does have the ability to implement an approval process to limit which items are subject to an invoice. Approvals are completely optional, but if they are turned on, you can then also set which employees in fact have the authority to approve time and expense entries for invoicing. And then whether or not the person is active. Typically, at the beginning of a project, all employees will be active. But if perhaps, let's say you have an employee that leaves the company, and if your ArchiOffice is externally reachable on the internet and they decide to be malicious, they could conceivably still log in if you did not remember to turn off their login. So one of the things you can do, and that's just one example of a reason, there are others, but one of the things you can do is you can turn off their ability to log time against this project at all. You could delete them. However, as soon as time is committed to the project by this person, they cannot be removed from the team because they are then basically in use. So you can still limit them by turning off their active flag. And then this last little icon you see here is a save icon. Most places in the program do have a master save up at the top of the screen. However, there are a few that do still have a line item save. So if you do make changes to your role or your bill rate or the active flag or the approval flag, and you go up to the top and go to save, it will not. It will look like it did, but as soon as you navigate to a different project and come back, you would see that in fact that change was not saved. So what you have to do is actually click this little icon here, and then that line is most definitely saved. Then the last area we're going to look at in this video is phases and job codes. And again, these also default from an area in preferences, which we will go over in another video. But basically these two work together. And the idea here is you have a master list of all the phases and or subphases of your project, and you have a master list of all the job codes that could be conceivably available on this project. And you have some of the common options you would expect to see. The ability to turn the entire phase on or off, and this actually affects the ability to enter time against that phase. So if, for instance, you have completed phase 1 of the project, and you're now on phase 2, well, it is entirely possible to turn on only phase 2, turn off all others, and then that is yet another way to have a control over where and what people can enter time and expenses against. Only active phases can have time entered against them. Same thing with job codes. Only job codes which are active can be used to enter a new time entry. Going back to phases briefly, we also have budget hours. So this actually flows directly into the budget screen itself. And we will address the budget screen in a different video. But just so you can see that our O2 schematic design phase did in fact flow through the same 400 hours that we saw on our details screen. So phase 2, there's the same 400 hours. And if we change this and save, it would in fact change on the budget screen as well. We also have an ability to cap invoicing at the phase level. Now this only applies to phases that are marked as hourly phases. There's no concept of capping a fixed fee phase because that doesn't really make sense. But for hourly phases, it's absolutely possible. And we will actually go over this when we address the budget screen in a future video. and also in fact the ability to say that this is in fact an hourly phase or not. We also have a start and an end date. So what this is you can put in the approximate start date and the approximate estimated ending date of this phase, when all the work will start and when all the work will be anticipated to be finished. And this can then be used on a revenue forecasting report for the system to evaluate approximately how much it thinks you will make in revenue every month for 6 months or every quarter for 6 quarters. Or if the date range is shorter than that, then however many months or quarters are in that date range. And then the last couple of things I want to show is in the job codes. And again, we have the same active flag, which can turn on or off use globally to this job code. We also have a bill rate. And what this actually is another level of automation. When you enter a new time entry, by default, the program will wait until you have entered the project and the phase and the employee, and then it will come to that project, find the employee, see what their bill rate is, and then that will be the automatically defaulted bill rate for that time entry. However, you do have the option to say, that's fine, except for whenever I use this particular job code on this project, I want that to always override the user's bill rate in favor of this job code's specific bill rate. So you can do that. And then finally you have basic and additional. And what this is this actually allows you to indicate to the invoicing routines whenever this job code is seen on a time entry, how should we treat that time entry? Basic corresponds to any time entry that would be considered basic time and materials and part of your contracted and budgeted amount. And additional is, as the name implies, additional. It is something that is above and beyond the contracted amount, or an add service. Something that wasn't planned on that you're going to bill separately that does not count against your budgeted and contracted values. And that is the project details screen. We will look at the other screens in project and how they tie into preferences in a future video.